It's April 2020. We are about 6 weeks into the COVID lockdown here in California. I figured this would be a good time to do some car videos because it's been about 6 months, I guess, since the last one, which is kind of sucks. But I will say one very tiny positive thing about this lockdown is it's given me a lot of time to focus on the car. So this is the new engine installed. Well, the new old engine. This is a 5.3 that I got off of eBay, and this arrived actually in December, and it took only 2 days to get here from when I bought it to when it showed up, which is really wild. But this is an LKQ 5.3. I'm going to do two quick videos here on this. The first video will be when I got it delivered, and then the second video will be well, this first video that you're watching right now is the engine being delivered, and then my teardown of the engine to make sure it looks healthy inside before building it up and then getting it back in the car. So next video will be the sort of rebuild of the engine and then installing it and getting to where we are at this point, which is it's in the car. It's not running quite yet. I'm still working on a couple things here, like doing some more new oil lines to replace all the ones that had metal shavings and bearing particles in it. And then, so new oil lines I'm building right now. So anyway, this video will be the engine being delivered and then kind of my teardown of it. Next episode will be the engine being kind of built back up again and then going into the car. And then hopefully the next episode will be going back to the track after that one, whenever the track opens at some point. So enjoy. Well, here's the new engine. This is a 2006 5.3 out of a Silverado, and I got this for $750 plus $250 shipping off of eBay, and this is from LKQ. It was shipped directly to my house right next to my Lexus here on a pallet, and I just kind of pulled it in and started pulling off the intake manifold and the valve covers and stuff, and for 150,000 miles, it's looking really clean inside. I'm really happy with how this engine ended up turning out. So the cool thing about this one is that it is a Gen 3.5 engine. The Gen 3.5 engines have the block architecture and the electronics of the Gen 3 engines, but the upgraded thicker rods and the full floating piston pins out of the Gen 4 engines. So really this is kind of the strongest of both worlds because it has the upgraded, stronger internals and the simpler electronics. I don't have to worry about disabling any of the DoD stuff or the AFM or any of that kind of stuff. It just should be able to work with my current wiring harness that I have and be stronger and hold plenty of power and boost in the future. The outside of it looks a little rough. There's quite a bit of rust here compared to my old engine, as you can see there. But other than that, internally, it seems, like I said, to be pretty good. Certainly a little dirty in the intake manifold ports on the heads. So today I'm going to pull the engine apart, make sure that everything looks good inside, change some gaskets, and then I'm going to replace these heads with my lower mileage heads from my 4.8 because they are identical between the 5.3 and the 4.8. And then I can start getting the new, or my older oil pump on and my exhaust manifolds, and then get this thing ready to go into the car. With the pans off, it looks pretty healthy in there as far as the oil goes. You can see there's some just kind of dirt from old oil on the sides, but for the most part, it looks pretty clean. All very encouraging signs. I decided not to film the entire process of tearing the engine down because I've done this before on this channel, but I wanted to show you one thing quickly is this engine did not use well, the TSP from the factory says that you have to have RTV around each of these knock sensor holes. This engine did not have it, and because of that, I just spent probably a full day trying to remove the rear knock sensor, and this is what it ended up looking like. This is a good one I had on my old engine, and this is what the other one looked like. It is a pretty big, gnarly mess. I ended up having to, I tried welding a nut onto it and cutting into it and drilling, and it's just pretty awful. So definitely make sure that when you put your new valley cover on, put RTV around the knock sensor just to be sure. All right, quick update. We have the valve covers removed on both sides. We have the rocker arms and push rods removed. We have the top 10mm bolts up here all removed. Valley cover, knock sensors, which were a pain in the ass. I tried getting the crank pulley off, but the actual bolt on there is being stubborn, so that's sitting in some WD-40 right now to break that thing loose. On the passenger side here, we had some issues. By we, I mean me. Had some issues with the dipstick tube here because it was rusty and corroded like everything else is on this engine. So I ended up just impacting an old exhaust bolt into that and then just, basically just spinning it until the whole thing broke loose, and then I could tap it out with a hammer. So that was really fun. But other than that, things are coming along well. I have to get the rear cover off here so you can't see it, but the cover has to come off so I can get the rear main seal. And then we'll do the crank pulley and the front timing cover here, new timing chain and everything. And then, head gaskets, and then put the new heads on, which are right over there. That will be super fun. And then just start rebuilding. So I have the engine almost torn down all the way. I have the crank pulley removed and the timing cover removed. And looking at the timing cover from this engine on the right versus the 4.8 that I had, it shows that the 4.8 was definitely a low mileage engine, which makes me think that it probably sat on a shelf at a junkyard for who knows how many years before I got it. And then it kind of sat even longer once I had it in my garage. So it probably sat for about 10 years. And I guess I just thought, I was being naive thinking that being low mileage, it was just ready to drop in the car and go. But I'm really excited and happy that I'm taking the time to tear this engine apart and make sure that everything looks good. And it looks to me like it was run very recently and was very well maintained over the course of its life. This was the timing sprocket from the 4.8, and you can see how clean it is compared to the sprocket from the 5.3. So I'm encouraged. I'm going to get the oil pump removed now. The timing chain I'm going to remove. I'm going to have to reuse this sprocket because it was clearly a different design from the 4.8 from 04. So I'll reuse this sprocket, but I will put my LS2 replacement chain on there, and then I have my pump coming in the mail. And then other than that, get the timing cover placed back on there. I have a bunch of parts here. I've got my new ARP crank pulley bolt, and then I have new timing chain. This is like an LS2 timing chain, so the chains are much thicker. It's a huge upgrade compared to the factory one. And then I have the timing cover gasket, and then all kinds of water pump gaskets and various things. This is also a timing chain dampener kit. So all this will be going on pretty soon. In the meantime, let me get back to work. Before we take off the cam sprocket, which is also the timing sprocket and chain, you want to make sure that the engine's at top dead center. That means that the number one piston is at the highest point of its stroke within the bore. And to do that, there's a line right here on the timing sprocket, and then there's a little dot on the crankshaft sprocket. And the idea is to have those lined up exactly in the middle of the engine, and that means that the engine's at top dead center, so you can go ahead and remove these bolts. So strangely, this new chain that I got is an LS2 upgraded chain, which is supposed to be thicker than the standard chain, but looking at my factory chain, I actually have thicker links on the factory one than on this replacement one. So it's kind of interesting here. The chain on the far left is my old 4.8 chain. The one in the middle is the upgraded LS2 chain, which should be the thicker of all of them, really. And the one on the right is my 5.3 chain that came on this engine. And if you look at this link in the middle right here, this is really thin on the 4.8. This one on the LS2 is a bit thicker than that one. But look how much thicker the 5.3 is than this one. And what's crazy is this is a Gen 3 engine, being an 04. LS2 was a Gen 4 engine, and this one's a Gen 3.5. So it's kind of odd that this one is actually thicker than this one, which means that maybe this one at some point was either upgraded from the factory by a previous owner, or maybe this engine just has a thicker chain than all the other ones. Well, the engine's now torn down as far as I'm going to take this build. I've actually already started doing some upgrades, like installing the timing belt dampener here, and then kind of cleaning up some piston tops, and then working on removing old gasket material and that kind of stuff. But basically, as far as the teardown goes, this is it. I could do way more, like pulling the rods out and bearings and all kinds of stuff, but I know that this engine worked as is, so I'm just going to keep it where it is now and then just kind of rebuild from here. I'm really happy with the condition of the bores and everything. Everything is super clean and stuff, so I'm going to go through and just make all my pistons look as clean as I can, and then do some other light modifications on the rebuild, but that'll be next episode. I've already got my improved racing oil galley barbell here, my new oil pump, and I have all my gaskets and various things all over the place. Like I got head gaskets and all kinds of stuff ready to go in. So that's going to be next episode. So that's it for the episode. I know it's kind of a quick one, and I'm also changing my format a little bit with a bit more just doing stuff and then showing it rather than showing every single wrench turn, because it takes forever to film that stuff and it slows down my actual build process like immensely. So hopefully in the next month or two, or whenever we get the tracks open again, I'll have the car ready at that point to go back to the track and start tearing into this thing in a good way, not in a breaking engine and shredding bearings way. Hopefully just shredding tires. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode coming soon, which is kind of the rebuild and then reinstall into the car. And I'll see you guys soon.